we see controls as it's the brain for the facility, right? And unlike with temperature control in an office building, we can go plus or minus a few degrees or a few points of relative humidity, and no one's going to really notice. But that could have a dramatic impact on your product that you're trying to grow, and your margins are dependent on stable environments. And so we're kind of the central glue to walk through that process to ensure your project is successful.
Welcome to Business Ninjas, brought to you by WriteForMe, where you'll hear from business leaders who are out there growing their business and slaying it every day. Learn from the masters. Let's get started.
Hey everybody, this is Max Pittman with WriteForMe, and you're listening to another episode of the Business Ninjas podcast, where we meet the experts who are making things happen and scaling their businesses. And today we're talking about Josh Keogh, who is the Director of Solutions Engineering at TC Controls. Josh, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you bet. So TC Controls, you guys are in the ag tech space, and the company's been around for about 25 years. So I'm excited to dive into what's actually happening at TC Controls and how you guys are growing and expanding. But before we jump into what's going on at TC Controls, our community is built of entrepreneurs, executives, and sales and marketing leaders like yourself. So, as the Director of Solutions Engineering at TC Controls, tell the Business Ninjas community a little bit about yourself and some of the things you're focused on.
Yeah, sure. So kind of a meandering background here, but I originally went to school for environmental science and was very interested in, renewable energy and trying to save the planet. And so ended up making a shift into engineering world, where I went primarily into the built environment. I have a background in construction for carpentry, plumbing, electrical, that sort of stuff. And just took that into, focused on saving energy in the built environment through controls, through insulation, solar systems, that sort of stuff. And I did that primarily in the supermarket space for about 10 years, where we did, a large regional energy efficiency program, controls specific, on tailing refrigeration energy consumption for the supermarkets. And that got a little bit redundant for me, so I started looking around for some other opportunities, and TC Controls was a top pick for me. They were an impressive team and had really great knowledge in multiple different industries. But what really interested me was the ag space that they're in. Kind of pulls a little bit of my background, environmental science related, as far as interest in the environment and lowering CO2 emission costs for growing locally and all that sort of stuff. So made the plunge and been here for about a year now. So
very cool. I love it. Yeah, I took an environmental science class back in the day, and definitely one of my more interesting classes. It was definitely during the Inconvenient Truth era. So I love that you pursued a career in from where your interests were, because my interests back in the day were probably in sports, and I didn't get to be 6'5" and play in the NBA, right?
Right.
So your role there at TC Controls is the Director of Solutions Engineering. Like what is that? What does that entail?
Yeah, so it's a little bit of a play on typical solutions engineering. Conventional solutions engineering is more in the tech space, like providing coding or some sort of software-based solution for someone. And while that's somewhat true, because we're in the control space, really what I'm doing is solving problems, right? Trying to develop solutions for folks early on in their planning and construction for their facilities. And these are much different facilities than a conventional building. You got a lot of dynamic things going on as far as environmental control and water and temperatures and all that, and relative humidity. And so it's important to understand all those factors and develop solutions from the front end. And controls are kind of that central glue about in the entire process here. So what I do is help clients navigate some potential problems that they might be seeing and help develop solutions to those problems, both through strategic partnerships that we've got in the industry and also through the controls platforms that we provide and install.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. And kind of like developing, sounds like really custom solutions to very specific challenges that these companies in the ag space might be experiencing. And so with that in mind, like what is the elevator pitch for TC controls too? Like what problems specifically are you guys solving in that space?
Yeah, so we see controls as it's the brain for the facility, right? And unlike with temperature control in an office building, we can go plus or minus a few degrees or a few points of relative humidity, and no one's going to really notice. But that could have a dramatic impact on your product that you're trying to grow, and your margins are dependent on stable environments. And so we take the approach that we need to be knowledgeable and experts in everything that performs that environmental control aspect in your facility. So HVAC, water usage, lighting, your sequence of operations that are developed in the control system. And we kind of pull those together and help navigate the selections of those equipments, the proper design loads, the documentation of that from a scope standpoint to ensure contractors are aware. And we're kind of the central glue to walk through that process to ensure your project is successful. And so we see that, not only are controls that important, but they're also the thing that kind of is the viewpoint, the pane of glass that the end user is using to integrate and to navigate through all those mechanical systems that are in the facility. So we take the ownership to ensure it's right, and kind of almost act as a GC throughout the process to make sure that everyone's following scope and providing a high level result to the end user.
Sounds like there's definitely a hands-on approach for sure. Yeah. There's a software element to this as well. Yep. And yeah, tell me a little bit more about like that secret sauce, right? Like what do you guys do to like stands out against potential, competition or existing systems? Yeah, so we've taken the approach that we want to be experts in what we do, and we don't want to be a little bit knowledgeable in a lot of different places. We really want to focus all of our efforts in providing exactly what we know, and that's why we've gone out for strategic partnerships. But our primary focus is Argus controls in this space, and we've got a deep breadth of experience in that. A lot of our team has many years experience in the Argus platform, and we're able to really deliver solutions for clients because we're intimately aware of the Argus platform and benefits and advantages. And they've been around for 40 plus years in the ag space specifically, and they are grow system controls. And so we focus on that. The rest of the stuff that we try to string together is through strategic partnerships with folks that do the best in the industry, and we just bring them into projects and work hand in hand with them to deliver the right result there. Gotcha. So a little bit of the secret sauce then is obviously the strategic partnerships you guys have in place already, and because you want to set those up because there's a very specific vertical or industry that you guys are partnering up with, so you want to be with that industry leader in that space. What would you say are the kind of top verticals or segments within harvest controls, right? I know you and I talked, it was vertical gardening. Like what else is the focus for you guys? Yeah, big greenhouse, like leafy greens, cut flowers, that sort of stuff. We're really focusing on trying to deliver or help people deliver food locally. And so and that's in the form of traditional greenhouses. It could be vertical farming. We've gotten quite involved lately with conservatories, and so local conservatories that are curating different environments for people to come tour. And Argus Controls is basically developing that environment with each of those spaces. Desert, rainforest, all that sort of stuff all have very
unique and difficult demands on the environment. And so we're helping some of those places get their systems tuned properly and implement with Argus controls.
Very cool. Is there any focus on, in the cannabis space? I assume that's probably an area that you guys are working within as well.
Yeah, cannabis is probably at this point 50% of our business, and it's the main reason why everyone is taking a second look at ag space for traditional food production and anything else, right? I mean, it put a spotlight on the opportunities and possibilities of increasing your efficiency and growing indoors, and what the possibilities are for high density food production and local to the point of consumption. So we've definitely over the last couple of years been very busy with cannabis. It's given us a lot of lessons. We've kind of tuned our team specifically with the cannabis experience, as many people have, and are transitioning quite a bit into the food production space at this point, and trying to recreate some of that energy and focus that went into cannabis just for local food production.
Is that maybe one of the bigger challenges that you're facing right now as a business, is that transition or getting your name into kind of a space outside of maybe where you guys have been traditionally focused?
Yeah, I mean, we're a small company, right? And we're based in Massachusetts, and we have a strong New England presence, and there's a couple of things that are happening and why it's challenging for us right now. One is the cannabis market is kind of dying off, and as a result, like a lot of our business is following suit. And the same thing or the other thing that's happening is the indoor ag space is going through its own transition. There's a lot of technology, a lot of money pouring into vertical farming, and they're trying to figure out that space. There's a lot of risk, a lot of consolidation in companies, and so it's definitely a small niche market that we're trying to poke our head into, and working with some strategic partnerships to get involved there. But it's definitely a challenge to kind of rewrite your experience to a different industry, and by all intents and purposes, food production is a much different business than cannabis, and so there's a lot of things that we are trying to get up to speed on and get ourselves involved with there. So,
gotcha. Well, from like the pipeline perspective, I heard you guys talk about strategic partnerships as one way to generate opportunities. As you are looking to transition in the food production space, outside of like strategic partnerships, that you might already have in place, or looking for new partnerships, like what other focus areas do you have on generating pipeline? Is it outbound focused? I heard you guys think about maybe rewriting industry specific stuff for the website, right? Is there focused on inbound marketing? Like, how are you guys thinking about generating new business?
Yeah, it's definitely a combination of networking and we're rebranding our business, TC Controls Group, to offer a few different services to help expand beyond just traditional controls. Focusing on the pain points in the industry being proper environmental control design plus irrigation and fertigation design. So trying to get those things that are historically difficult to deliver under one roof and push that forward. And so we're definitely spending some time and effort. We've got a marketing company that's ag specific that's been helping us out with our rebranding, and so we're doing some outreach through HubSpot. Actually, there's some campaigns to try to reach some clients in the greenhouse and vertical farming space to try to provide some of the solutions we've done in the past for cannabis industries and greenhouses. And we've done plenty of those at this point, but just trying to reach that community and engage with some folks and try to provide, hey, here's our benefit. We can do things for you almost as a turnkey, be a single point of contact for you. We've got high level players in all the different spaces that we bring in to help support that. And we kind of deliver it as a team. We don't point fingers until project's done and everyone's happy. So that's kind of what we're trying to deliver as a message here.
Yeah, I would assume, in this kind of outbound, inbound process that you guys are doing right now, it's probably a little even hard to understand, maybe from the outside looking in, like what types of challenges that these grows may be having internally, because there's probably nothing publicly facing and no public facing information, right? So it might be a little bit hard to understand from the outside looking in, like what to potentially talk to. So what are some of the ways that you're trying to educate the space to ensure like you are getting the right message in front of the right individual, knowing what they potentially might be going through?
Yeah, I mean, well, a lot of it has to do with, and we do understand that margins are tight, and a lot of the businesses that we're targeting, their entire livelihoods are under glass, and one little mistake could really have a devastating effect to the health of the business. And so, we understand that we don't have an approach of like, it's extremely cost prohibitively expensive to engage us. We really try to work with solutions on making it manageable for clients, understanding what their specific needs and desires are from an operational standpoint, and then trying to help them, fine tune that through the control system, through developing sequences that properly control their entire facility, helping them automate some process so that they can reduce their operational cost, taking a look at technology that helps them reduce electricity or water consumption or those sorts of things. And so we like to take a holistic systems-wide approach to working with clients and really understand, we are a controls company, but controls are a part of a system, and we want to understand all the aspects of the system and how it can be modified for their advantage and reduce their overall cost associated with operating facilities.
Yeah, what your value prop is, it's a big deal, right? The harvest is a big deal to the producers and the farmers, right?
Right.
I'm not sure if that's the right title or how I should be calling your ideal customer, but this is their livelihood, right? That they're producing, and you're not selling just a software, you're actually helping them in their harvest in their facility to ensure they can be efficient and generate revenue from what they're producing and saving in the process. It's kind of what I'm hearing is the value that you guys are kind of approach that you're taking to these individuals.
Yeah, for us, it's all about, on the back end, it's really about, like I said, the partnerships, bringing the right people and the knowledge to help deliver that solution. And on the front end, it's how do you harness that data and how do you use it to your advantage to understand, the impacts to whatever product that you're growing. And so we're kind of front end, early preliminary design perspective of like, let's get this laid out in the most effective way to deliver a system that is as efficient as possible. And on the back end, let's use the tools that we put into place to make sure that you're able to make good decisions on your facility going forward.
Mm-hmm. So definitely human element, but also data-driven element.
Yeah, it's definitely there's a big push for AI and robotics in the space. That's not really where our focus is. A lot of growers, they want to connect with the product that they're growing, and it's important for them to see, the health and well-being of the facility. And so we kind of exist in that mid space where we can definitely automate things. We can definitely provide good data through the control system and environmental sensors and that sort of stuff and fertigation. But it's to the grower where they can make sense of it and make reasonable decisions off of that data and fine tune it as as the life cycle of the plant goes through their facility.
Yep. Love it. Yeah, I look, it makes a lot of sense why a farm, again, I say farm, but a grow, right? A harvest, a producer needs to have this and kind of innovate to, ensure that they get the most production out of that harvest, whatever that may be. And can you give me, I guess, like an example of like, a recent like customer or, challenge that you solved for that customer, like, maybe that is in the, in a growth space, right? Like what specific challenge did, did you hear or understand that, that you guys try to solve for them?
Geez, there's a whole bunch. I mean, so unfortunately, turnover in a lot of these facilities is pretty high. For whatever reason, we get growers come in, they go out, and so there's a constant need for training and communication with the team that's actually in charge of growing whatever product they're growing. And so oftentimes we get calls from folks saying like, "Hey, I just inherited this system. I really don't know what I'm doing. Like, I know how to grow, but I don't know anything about the rest of the facility." And whether we installed it or not, we're able to go in and kind of take stock of what the system looks like, whether it's chilled water system or just a DX HVAC system, fertigation, non-fertigation, and help them understand what's going on and train them in the best ways to operate the facility. And typically, we're trying to like I said, we're experts in Argus, and so we try to focus on those Argus control systems, but pull in partners where we need to make sure that the clients got some focus and got some solutions.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, it makes sense when there's some legacy systems, high turnover rates. You need to have something that's there, it's consistent, and also been in the space for a long time. And so that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So what would you say like are a couple of different examples then of like maybe what you would experience in a challenge when thinking about vertical gardening versus like a challenge that cannabis or grow might be faced with?
Sure. I mean, they're totally different products, right? So typically in vertical farming, we're dealing with maybe like leafy greens or fruits, vegetables, that sort of thing. In cannabis, obviously, it's pretty standard as far as the room layouts go. So sealed single or multi-tiered benches. It's not typically vertical in the same fashion, and so the plants themselves have different nutrient requirements and temperature and relative humidity set point requirements. Their harvests are different, and how they process through the product in a given space is much different. And so all that plays into how the controls and HVAC and all that sort of stuff are maintained. And there's different set points and schedules over a multi-week period. Lettuce might be only 2 or 3 weeks at a time, and cannabis might be 8 or 10 weeks at a time of a grow cycle. And so it has different demands on the mechanical systems in the facility. And so they're two different approaches for sure.
Gotcha. Yeah, I appreciate that. Again, as I'm a kind of a novice here, just trying to understand like, what are some of the things you guys would focus in on in one industry versus another? Because I know you guys do a lot, right? There's no shortage of things that I'm sure you're hearing. So I think it's good to just kind of help me in understanding like, okay, what is the main differences there that you're taking to market to ensure like you're getting the the right message in front of the right individual? I think that's the purpose behind that question.
Yeah.
Well, Josh, what about like, a year from now? What's something that, you and the team are, looking to accomplish? Is it, more percentage, customers in one space versus another? Is it, just a total number of new, new accounts you guys are partnering up with? Like, what are some of the things that, you guys are focused on internally to grow?
Yeah, so my focus for this year has been in developing some different verticals within TC Controls Group. And the two spaces that I've been focusing on internally have been grow consulting. So we've hired some actual growers with previous experience in both cannabis and traditional hort. And we brought them in on as a controls consultant. How do you solve problems that typical growers see through the controls platform, and train these folks to be a high level end user of these systems. So that's one area I've been focusing on, and the other is actually in irrigation and fertigation design. And so been working with some folks on water treatment partnerships. So we've got equipment that we know can handle water treatment needs, cleaning up water as it comes into the facility, but also reusing condensate, reusing leachate off of tables that have been previously used for irrigation and nutrient delivery. So relatively complex systems, and definitely there's a good pairing with Argus controls there to make sure that the grow control system is kind of overseeing all those facilities and processes. And so that's the primary area of my focus internally. And then been having a really focus on who are the best folks in the industry that we can partner with, and identifying those and working through the kinks of developing partnerships together. And so we've got some good players in the HVAC space. We've got some good players in the control space, obviously, in the water treatment and water system design space. So we're really trying to build out that as a good solution for clients to come to have a single point of contact for the whole process.
I love it. Yeah. Developing different verticals. I can see that's one way that, the sales team, and the marketing team can, start to think about different ways to target and opening up to new markets to capture more of that space. And then, you mentioned earlier, there's a focus on ensuring you have experts, versus jack of all trades, master of none, right? So you can see why there's potential growth and scaling plans to bring on those controls consultants. So I love to hear kind of like from a people aspect, there's a focus there, and also continuing to get better with irrigation and design and water treatment, continue to make things efficient for your customers, while also ensuring you get the right partnerships set up and have the right channels set up with people in the space that are experts, or companies in the space that you guys can be partnered up with as well to continue to grow pipeline. So definitely sounds like there's sales, there's marketing, and there's people all playing into the company's growth over the next year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the areas that we do focus on, and this is honestly one of the big reasons I decided to make the move to TC Controls, is because the leadership group here is very highly focused on team development and making sure we've got the right people in the places that we need them, and making sure they're supported. And so we've had great success and low turnover since I've started, and even prior to that. And we've attracted some great talent in the industry, and hope to keep moving that direction. So
cool. Well, as we wrap things up here, Josh, is there anything like we haven't covered that you think our listeners might need to hear, or anything about the company that we haven't covered thus far?
Not necessarily. Pretty much just to recap, we're primarily controls focused, but centralized around key partnerships and solutions for industries. We're in cannabis, vertical farming, greenhouses, flowers, conservatories. So we're out there trying to help people solve problems. So
yeah, it makes sense. Want to make sure you guys are focused on developing good people, and ensure you have a nice pipeline of people that you guys can bring in, and also focus on the team and their own development there too. And as you guys are leaders in this space, like, what's the best way for people to get a hold of you? Where are you guys going to be? You want to make sure you have the opportunity to share like how people can find you guys.
Yeah, sure. We're all over the place on LinkedIn. We've got a new website coming out at the end of this month, www.tccontrols.com. We're going to be at a few conferences and meetings throughout the country coming up. So in July 15th, 18th will be CWCB in New York City. And then May, NECAN, Connecticut will be May 20th to 21st, coming up pretty shortly here. And then we're going to be at the American Public Gardens Association from June 5th to the 8th as well.
Love it. That's awesome. Love to include some links to those too in the description, so where people can find you guys. Do you guys have a booth there? Are you going to be speaking at all at those events? Yeah.
Yep. So I'm going to be speaking at the CWCB event on a panel talking about advantages of controls and technology in the indoor ag space. And then we're going to be sharing booths with Argus at the rest of the conferences that I mentioned there.
Love it. That's awesome. Well, everyone who's going to be there and listening, definitely stop by, check out TC Controls. I'm sure you guys have heard of them, but sounds like there's a lot of great things going on there at TC Controls. As you guys, do an important. You guys do something very important, right? It's not like you're just selling bells and whistles or hopes and dreams, right? You're not a marketing company like us, right? you are here, in the environmental control and design space, right? Helping people get the most out of their grows and helping get food to table, helping in a lot of different ways in the market. And so that's something I can definitely get behind. And I'm sure there's a lot of great people who are listening and that can get behind that as well. So I appreciate you letting us know a little bit more about TC Controls, how you guys are growing, how you're differentiating from others in the marketplace, where your specialty is and where you guys are focused, because those are all things I think people are going to be looking for when they look to kind of optimize what they're currently doing. So I feel like I've learned a lot about you, Josh, and TC Controls, and I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, that wraps up another episode of Business Ninjas Podcast, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. Enjoy the rest of your day. Cheers.